you doing the show?
Ultimately, I think trying to figure out how to do a show that is surprising. Ultimately, we want to. The biggest challenge, especially specifically in a season 7 of a show, is that you still want to deliver the fans the same show that they're used to seeing. So certainly from the perspective of tone and character, you want to keep it pretty consistent. But you just don't want to do the same jokes over and over and over and over again. You watch these sitcoms where literally in the first season, they're just doing the same joke, just different wording, but the same joke over and over and over again. So we felt like, well, how do we deliver the same show from a tone and character perspective, but then also, mix it up a little bit. That's the biggest challenge, but it's also the most amount of fun.
You obviously lost a little weight since the
Yeah.
last time we might see you.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that character decision and how it impacted the entire season.
Yeah, well, ultimately it started because, and we talked about this a little bit before, for me it was never like, oh, wouldn't it be funny to have a fat character? That's just mean and it's not funny. Ultimately, what was funny to me is the abuse of one's body. So Mac is always talking about putting on mass, so he decided to put on mass, and his vision was that when David was sculpted, they didn't start with like pebbles. They started with a big slab of marble, and then it was whittled down. So Mac created himself a big slab of marble, but it turned out he was just sort of a big slab of beef and never really trimmed himself down. And that to me is the funnier aspect of it. And it's just the abuse that it took to get himself to that point. And it stemmed from watching a really popular sitcom where the actors were getting better, I was noticing. It was like season 6, 5 or something. The actors were better looking than when they started 5 or 6 years before. And I thought, what bullshit? They're better looking because they have more money, they're more famous, they have better hair and makeup people, they have better wardrobe. And our show's always been about deconstructing the sitcom and not creating likable characters or attractive characters. So I wanted to figure out a way to do the opposite. So it wasn't just about weight gain, it was about how can I make myself look as self-abused as possible. So it was weight gain, I grew a disgusting beard, my hair was long and greasy, and I just tried to look as ugly as possible.
Let's take one here, but then let's take another one. There's belly button. Just want to back. It's just, and so much you're so edgy. And
Yeah.
Oh no, I know what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, I think there's a big difference between the actors being mean-spirited and cruel and the show being mean-spirited and cruel. So to take a swipe at a disabled person is, abhorrent. And that's not something that we would do on the show. But for the two characters to be fighting over who gets to use the wheelchair today because we get to park in handicap spots and we get people to hold doors for us and we get to do whatever we want, that to me is funny. But that's about abhorrent characters doing abhorrent things, not a television show saying, oh, isn't it funny to make fun of fill in the blank. So for me, that's the major distinction. Well, even in the first season, we were told, we went to a network pitch because we got offers from many different networks. And when we went into the network pitch and we showed them the episode that we shot on our own, they said, oh, we really love this show. It's really funny. It's really interesting. And it was about this guy telling all of his friends that he was dying of cancer just so he could impress a girl and get a girl to pay attention to him. And the network was like, we can't, this was a separate network, one that we didn't sell to, saying, well, we can't do that. Like, it's funny in theory, but you can't have a character lying about having cancer. And we were like, wow, I feel like we really can. And then I said, I have this other episode in which a character, like my character, who's like a hardcore, like fundamentalist Christian conservative, Catholic conservative, goes to an abortion rally to rally against abortion, but meets a girl who's pro-life and then really digs her, and now they're pro-life together. And then he winds up possibly getting her pregnant, and as soon as instantaneous, when she says I'm pregnant, he says, you have to get an abortion. And to me, the network said, to me that was like, that's exactly what I was talking about before, which is we're not making fun of either side of that issue. What we're saying is the hypocrisy of a character who claims to be pro-life, and then it's the split second he finds himself in a situation where he actually has to make that decision, his entire ethical structure crumbles. The network said, well, you can't even say the word abortion. And we were like, all right, go fuck yourself. Yeah. So needless to say, we didn't make it. Yeah, we didn't make the show then. And to me, the fact that you can't even say, the fact that abortion is such a huge issue, regardless of how you feel about it, it's a huge issue in our culture. The fact that you can't even say the word on network television is fucking bullshit. Because if we're not talking about it, we're talking about it behind closed doors, but we're not talking about it in popular culture. What does that say?
You've had one soundtrack album. Any plans for another one?
Well, yeah. I mean, we got to write the music. We have another musical episode this year. We're really, really excited about it.
Tell me a little bit about it, or what can you say about it?
It's called, the episode's called Frank's Little Beauties, and he winds up getting himself involved in a beauty pageant. And we're super excited when he comes in and says, hey, I got to run this beauty pageant. But he's all nervous, and we say, why are you so nervous? And he said, well, the guy didn't tell me that it's actually a child beauty pageant. So we wind up putting on this child's beauty pageant, and we wind up heavily, heavily involved.
And where do the songs come in?
We write them. Well, it's part of the performance.
The children in the beauty pageant?
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to be the children are supposed to be heavily featured, but we wind up featuring ourselves a little bit more.
And do we know, will there be an album of that episode?
We don't know, but there might be. It depends on the popularity of the episode.
Are you ever considering doing the Gang Goes to Comic-Con episode?
I mean, that would be amazing, and that was actually pitched to us. I don't know how we would get the money to fly to San Diego. It would be a whole road trip thing.
Do it while you're here.
That would be amazing.
Some of the things you guys have done have escalated its intensity over the years. It just gets more insane each time. So what happens this year that raises the bar from last year?
Well, ultimately, our intention is never to outdo ourselves or to raise the bar. Literally, we just keep saying, well, what have we not done before? What would we find funny, and what are you not going to find anywhere else? And that's where we start from. So I don't think that we try to outdo ourselves or even raise the bar. I think it's just a byproduct of having done 6 years and now 7.
The first episode's called You Guys Had a Baby.
Well, yeah, that's actually not the first episode. That's going to be a little bit later. But yeah, Dee winds up getting audited by the IRS, and it culminates in a funeral for a baby, which is about the darkest thing you could possibly do. But hopefully we pull it off. You tell me.
Last question, guys.
Yeah.
Are you going to start bringing babies on?
Yeah, I mean, well, we've had babies on before. In fact, my baby, who's now 11 months old, wherever we carry him around, people roll down their window, driving by or walking by and be like, oh, it's Dumpster Baby. I'm like, please don't call my son Dumpster Baby.
Thank you, guys.
He's going to get a complex.
Is it true?